We are back with part 3. I think, I've lost count. Maybe it's part 4, people. I don't know. But anyway, Paula will correct it. It's okay. So we are here with Tall White Adrian, who has agreed to continue to join us with this interview, and my son Erik, and of course the lovely Michelle Gray. And welcome for all of you guys who are just joining this channel for the first time. And I really encourage you to watch the other parts that we've already done with this ET interview with Tall White Adrian. Thank you for coming back, Adrian.
And thank you for having me, Dr. Elisa.
You don't have to call me doctor. Is there a reason why mermaids and sirens are also presenting themselves to us? I didn't know they were. Well, that's interesting.
He says, indeed they are. Indeed they are. And he says, and that would be the happiness vibration because they can
Oh.
feel it in the water. He says that there are many mythical water people that are showing themselves. And for all of you that are connected into, he says, fairies and any mythical creatures, if you are drawn to it, even if you think, well, I've never seen one, this would be the time to call on the water beings because they will show themselves to you. And he says that because water carries information and it carries memory, he said that there is like a vibration of happiness that has been in the water that they have felt. So they're starting to come towards that vibration. So we will see them more.
Yeah, you guys check out because we did a whole series on elementals in the past. So you guys do a search in our YouTube channel, and you'll probably find it there. So what is it? Why is there a happiness vibration? I look at the news rarely, but well, I don't see no happiness nowhere.
Well, he says, and see, it the opposite is taking place even when we see something that is painful
Yeah.
taking place. So, for example, he says that there have been many memories of pain that have occurred in the earth waters. And he says that the waters on earth are much deeper and more vast than we can understand because he says that the mythical beings that are under the water, he's saying that there are cities, there are like in the earth, like underneath the seabed of the water. There
Wow.
are beings in there that we couldn't possibly imagine that we will, and some do already have contact with. But he says that there is a project and he's calling it the Water Lily Project. And
Oh.
he says that the Water Lily Project is all beings that are here to infuse that happiness into the water. And it is for healing because many people come into the water to cleanse. And so what they do is they instill, and he says happiness, he wants us to see that as putting pink light into the water.
Mm.
So it's like putting this pink light into the water. And when we, because the water is being carried everywhere across the earth.
Mm.
So he says, like the oceans, the riverbeds, everywhere is being carried everywhere. So they're using it as a conduit. But he also says for disaster. So anytime that there is disaster, you're going to start to see signs of the water beings. And he says, and ask to see them because they
Yeah.
will show you that they have been present, especially after there has been something take place that has created a lot of grief or sadness. He's actually pointing to the event that has taken place recently with the submarine.
Yeah.
And he says, using that as an example, because there's a lot of collective energy connected to that water and to grief, to sadness, to anger. And he says that the Water Lily Project is to help transmute that energy for support.
Now, does that help humanity or Mother Earth or both? What's the
Both,
target of the healing? Okay, got it.
both.
Make sure. Is it in our life path, Mr. Adrian, if we do see an alien?
He says this really does depend on each individual, but there has to be some sort of he says, let's call it a clause. And if your life path agreement, say, were 300 pages and you had a little blip of a moment with an ET, well, somewhere in that clause, there would be like almost an opening for that to happen. So yes, there has to be some kind of an agreement in there, because there has to be a passing of energy that goes through our higher selves for that to happen. However, that doesn't mean that all people that are having some kind of contact with ETs, say, have a like that contact might be the purpose to share, to spread within that family or within that community. So he says if it does happen in that way, it's not necessarily that they're going to keep communicating and having a big relationship with them, but that it's for the purpose of sharing, for the purpose of awakening.
No. Will I ever in this lifetime come face to face with an extraterrestrial? Knowingly?
Okay, so Adrian wants this person to know
No, this is
that,
me.
oh, you. Okay, well, Adrian would like you to know
Okay.
that you are going to see an alien through a reflection first before
Okay.
you see them face to face. Yes, you will see one face to face in this lifetime, but he says something about a reflection. So
Okay.
it's almost like seeing them in the
Ease on
mirror,
into it. Like
seeing them in the mirror
peripheral
behind you.
vision, it's like
Mhm.
not like okay. Well, they'll probably scream when they see me. So, how many alien species are there that care about our survival in the case of a catastrophe?
He says that the amount, and he says that for us to really put a number on the civilizations is difficult. But what he says is the percentage of those that are malevolent are much smaller than the percentage that is benevolent.
Well, are they more
Um,
powerful though? Where's the power lie?
well, he says the power has come from manipulation, because the reason why there was power in the first place has to do with trickery. And he's showing it like free will being given away. So it's like once that permission happened, that energy, that's why it
Mhm.
became so powerful. And that's why it's so important for humanity that that free will is being, that sovereignty is coming through humanity, because it's like that has
Okay.
undone that agreement. So he says that that power, um, that is what is changing. That's why everything is changing. So we can call it many different things, but he says that that power is being dismantled. The light always does have more power, but it's because
Mm.
we're watching it go through a physical transition. We have to physically go
Oh
through it.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Um,
it's humanity's fault because we are the ones that vote in people from all political parties to manipulate us and to isolate us and to make us ill, like you were talking about, and to create chaos. So it's isn't it our fault? Aren't we to blame for putting people
well,
in
he
power? At least in democratic societies.
Yeah, well, he says that we have to accept some responsibility in our lives, of course, but he says that we're talking about many generations before us, many,
Yeah.
many, many generations before us, because he says this is an over 3,000 year plight, that we're like, this is
Oh,
not just
wow.
something that has happened over a brief period of time.
Yeah.
He says we're talking about generations of an agreement and a building of energy, but that is only because the structure itself
Yeah.
was in the physical. The structure is third dimensional energy, which is a heavier energy. But because we have shifted, and the way Adrian's saying it is the patience, like universal patience.
Yeah.
And he says that we've had to have patience because there has to be an element of, again, perfect temperature, perfect timing.
Yeah. Divine timing. All right.
Mhm.
Thoth. No, Thoth. That's very hard to say. Thoth Emerald Tablets. What information has been held back by governing bodies? What is Thoth anyway? And what are the Emerald Tablets? I'll look that up while you talk amongst yourself.
Well, Adrian is saying that it was Thoth or Toth.
Oh, maybe it's
Um,
Thoth.
yeah, he's saying that it's funny because he's like computing in his mind, like, let me look that up. Um, he says that he is a being, that he is a being that has walked the earth, and he says many generations of walking the earth, and the emerald tablets contain the record of the earth.
Oh.
Record of he says what has been held back, and he says the emerald tablets were put in safekeeping. He's also saying that this is what will make a great deal of change for us, is also having the information, which this is what is all coming out of, where did we come from. He's saying it's right now to do with religion. It's taking religion and showing it as a different structure than what we were believing it to be. So he says there's a lot of man-made things in our history that the Emerald Tablet will start to dispel. And there are beings that did not want that information to come out.
Mm. Okay, this is interesting. It's the Emerald Tablet, it's also called by some other name, is a compact and cryptic hermetic text. It was highly regarded by Islamic and European alchemists as the foundation of their art. Let me see. Well, you guys can look it up. This is Wikipedia, so I can't go through but there's an Arabic version. It's quite interesting. I'm gonna read this later. Anyway, but that's for later time.
He's saying missing, so there's missing, like there's missing pieces.
Okay. Oh, what information do you think what's the most important kernel of information that's been held back by governing bodies?
He says he says it's not really one thing, that to really put it into one thing, because it's a grouping. He says like one affecting the next, like a domino effect.
Yeah.
But he says, to say it simply, would be where we came from, how we came here.
Interesting. All right. Will there be a public disclosure anytime soon? Of course, I saw that the Canadian Defense Minister publicly talked about, yep, there are UFOs, there are ETs, etc. But as far as a massive public disclosure, what's the timeline for that at this point?
So what he's saying is we're going to continue to see a trickling, much like we have been seeing.
Okay.
That are going to have some highlights. He said there'll be some highlights to it that will continue to happen. He says when we're talking about a mass disclosure, like something the whole world is viewing, he says that will be some time out. So there's going to be something smaller that happens that will affect a great deal of people. 2025, 2026. And then there's something that's about 10 years out that he's showing me that has a fairly large effect. And there's many different ETs present, over five, six, seven different races.
We had this sighting, this ET that somebody captured, apparently a photograph of in Las Vegas. So that's a little thing. But then the government, Men in Black, whatever, other people can just dispel that. It's really a hoax. But so there probably has to be something massive, like this giant ship lands in the middle of Times Square and ETs flood out and say, hey, people, we're here, let's party. right?
And yes, but he says that it has to do how this happens, and like the how, the when, the where has a lot to do with the human population vibration.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, many people would say, like, come on, I've been waiting for you, I've been ready for you. But he says, are you really ready?
Oh,
Are you
yeah.
really ready?
Yeah, yeah.
Because he wants to explain that a premature exposure to what we think we know could actually be very physically and emotionally and mentally damaging
Mm,
to our population.
wow.
So he says there's more to it than the ship dropping in. So it's like the vibration has to be in a place where there would be, because he says there will be some chaos, because there's always going to
Yeah,
be an element of, oh my God, oh my God. So he says there will be some chaos, but if this happened today in the way that we're discussing, it would be like having a complete breakdown,
yeah.
like across the world. And he says it wouldn't be good.
All right, so look, I can understand the mental or emotional damage because I thought I was ready for it, but no, go away. But physical? How could there be physical damage by a premature disclosure?
Well, because he says that, so what he's showing me is there's relatively close proximity between human beings and the ETs, and I'm seeing feet, a lot of different feet, and they're actually all standing in a line. And so what he's saying about physical is he says, um, oh, I understand what you mean about vibration. If the vibration, like, it's like putting this vibration physically with people, if the body is not prepared for it,
Oh,
it can make us very sick,
wow.
because we can't handle that vibration all at
Yeah.
once.
Mm, mm,
We can't physically handle it. So even
mm.
if our minds think we can handle it,
Yeah,
our bodies aren't in a place to be able to handle it.
interesting. All right, Dr. Stephen Greer has an app that can be downloaded on our phones to initiate contact. First of all, does it work? And if so, is that a safe thing to do?
Adrian says that it's no different than our conversations about the Ghost Radar app. So, what he says is the app that he has is fine, and it is electricity, it is technology. He
Hmm.
says any type of technology is able to be communicated with. So he says, is it safe? Well, he says that he would advise us to all use the same practices we would use if we were using um, like a dowsing, like
Yeah,
any
tool
type
of
of.
divination, right?
Yes,
Hair
he says
protection.
now the one thing about this is there's already a um like a consciousness connected to this that has powered up the I will communicate with ETs when I do this, which is helpful. So if you're using this, you already know that we're aware of it.
Yeah,
But he says it is the same as when we are communicating with spirit. There is a vibrational pathway that we are blending with you. So it is the consistency of using it. It is safe. Um, However, he does suggest that you use your spirit guides and your own discernment with protection.
right. It seems like we could communicate just by our intent. I mean, our thoughts
Well,
are scalar
and that's
energy that,
exactly it.
yeah, I could just say,
Yeah.
hey, I want to see you guys and I want contact.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like what happened to me with my girlfriends in Braunfels. Just we want to see. And
Hmm.
there was the UFO. Okay, is the
Yes.
war in Ukraine enhancing UFO sightings? And if yes, how so? And are they due to nuclear weapons threats?
Yes. He says because there are there are other ETs that have agendas that are not as supporting.
Yeah.
And because of that, there is more presence. He shows it like a lot of back and forth, trying to get in front of the other ETs or
Oh,
trying to correct something that has taken place. He says that um, we don't see there being like a something impending. They just want to confirm that as we're talking about it.
mm.
However, there are things that they are trying to create to do with nuclear, um, that would
Who-
not
who's
be.
who's they?
He says there are other
Oh,
ETs,
okay. The nefarious races. Is that what you're
nefarious races
saying?
that do have contact with individuals on the earth. Like there's ETs on the earth and ones that are coming in that don't have the best intentions, but there are many others that are here. The way he's saying it is this has been going on for a very long time.
Yeah.
It's just that because of where we are in the energy, we're noticing it, we're seeing it, but there is an increase, yes.
Okay. Why would the nefarious race want to make us nuke ourselves? Well, why would they root for the destruction of humanity? What's in it
Well,
for them?
it's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear, trying to gain the Adrian says they are scared because it's
Really?
like losing power, losing control. So they also say that greed, um, sometimes makes, oh, okay, not sometimes. Greed makes the mind or the decisions that aren't always well thought through.
Mm-mm.
And so he
Yeah.
says there are some things that they do that they're not looking at what's happening behind it. It's like desperate acts taking place to gain control.
On the part of the nefarious ETs.
Yeah.
Wow. You think after millennia and eons of evolution, they wouldn't be past all that, but
But what Adrian says is he says, but Dr. Elisa, he says, also understand that although they are a part of Source, they do not believe or choose to be a part of Source. So they are
ah,
disconnected,
I gotcha.
not truly disconnected, but it's like being pinched off from that energy.
Their mindset is that they've disconnected themselves from
Yes.
the source
Yes.
and the spiritual evolution that comes with being a part of
Exactly.
source. Okay, I got
Exactly.
it. What is your perspective of the current war in Ukraine and its possible outcomes?
Ooh. We see it as something that is taking place to help, he says, less to do with those of us that are observing it and more to do with those that are directly involved in it. um, he's saying that there are, uh, groups of people in humanity, in our human race, that are trapped,
Mhm.
like things that we're not knowing about as a collective.
Okay.
And so he says it's like this had to be the way to get in, to save people, to save those that are, he's bringing up trafficking, like human
Mm,
trafficking is somehow
mm,
connected in with this war.
yeah.
And so he says like this is not the ultimate choice, like meaning we did not want to see it go this way, but they also see that this is the easiest way to get the results that they are looking for. Unfortunately, they said, is there casualty? Yes. Is there suffering? Yes. And we do understand that, but we also see that this is a process to get to the other side. And he's calling this part of the birthing pains. But
Yeah.
he says that we are going to see a turn of events, like an unexpected turn of events at the end of next year.
In the next year.
Information,
So
some
2024,
information
the
about.
end of
Mhm,
2024.
mhm.
Okay. Will nuclear weapons be deployed during the war and after that, like World War III? that some mediums mentioned is likely to happen in the 2060s. I'll be long gone. It's okay, y'all, whatever. And will involve the US and Russia or China. So, first of all, will nuclear weapons be deployed during the war? As the quantum probability is set right now, today.
He says no.
Okay.
He says no.
What about
He's
World
talking
War
about it.
III? Okay.
He says he's talking about fear, like being an escalation of fear, a lot of talk, and people saying it's inevitable, and he says, be careful with what you say.
Oh no.
Be careful with what you say.
Yeah.
Be careful with how you talk about this, because he says that standing right now, we do not have to go through that.
Yeah. Thoughts create reality, people. All right, so let's talk about the World War III issue that some mediums mentioned is likely to happen in the 2060s. Is that really true? At this point, what's the quantum probability?
He says that it's less than 40%, just under 40%.
Okay.
And he says that it is an available timeline. He also says it tends to get a lot of attention or be tapped into because there's so much energy. There's fear around it, so it's seen. But that's why he's saying it's very important that we change the thought around it, so we can hear that and understand. He says we can understand that, yes, I understand that that's a probability, but he says that it's very important, and he appreciates how you speak of it, about probabilities, and that's how he would like everyone to view it, to really understand that we have an array of choices, and this is really about us putting our thoughts and feelings together to avoid this, because we do not have to go through it, but it is fear being fed by information coming through that has built that timeline up.
Yeah. And the more thought we put into one timeline, the higher up the quantum probability goes. So
Yes.
think love and peace, people.
Yes.
If it does happen, if it were to happen, this World War III would involve the USA, Russia, China, all three.
He actually shows the USA and China.
Okay.
He's not saying anything about Russia.
Wow. Let's just do one more. Are your races dying from similar chemical-based problems like this world? And are you trying to help us not come to the same end as your worlds? Like, for example, the use of nuclear power. I.e., our use of. Okay, go ahead.
He says that we have experienced in our past some of the things that we are experiencing now. So that's part of their ability to be able to help, is understanding the because he says, like, destroying our planet, being destroyed, having problems with the planet and moving, like not being in the same planet, in the same area, but not on the same planet that they originally were, because of destruction. He says some destruction that we experienced. He's just saying that the atmospheres are very different, and he even says with nuclear, so it's something like that was on this planet, but it keeps showing me a lot of gases, coming up.
Natural gases or gases
That's what
made
I'm
by.
just asking him, because it looks like it's coming right out of the earth, like it's coming right out of the core of the earth. He says yes, that those are natural gases, but he's also saying like they were hit, or they were hit by something.
Oh,
Not exactly sure what it is, because I don't have the vocabulary
yeah,
to describe
something.
what exactly it is, but he's just saying that there are similarities, but he says that what's happened to them was much further than what's happening to us, but he's showing it's different. It's different, like the
Okay.
gases are different.
Interesting. Last question before we close. We have this supposed global elite Bilderberg complex that is a hierarchy of the bankers, certain politicians, academicians, military, industrial complex, etc. Are the nefarious ETs a part of that Bilderberg complex, the global elite?
Yes.
No, knowingly? I mean, the human part of that knows, or
No. Those that are in human body, um, there are some that do know.
okay,
And he says that it is a small amount, but he says that those that are in, I went to use the word control and he's like pulling back, like that's not quite right, but those that are in power that have
oh,
a nefarious being or beings directed or working with them, no, many of them do not know.
okay. All right, thank you guys. That was wonderful. Thank you, Adrian. I love you, and I can't wait to have our next part of this interview. Michelle Gray, check her out in the description box. I love you, Erik.
Erik says he loves you so very much. And Adrian is like waving to everybody. He says thank you. And he says, yes, yes, that is me. Because somebody is like, I don't know if Adrian's actually talking to me or not. And he just wants to say that he
Oh,
loves visiting. He loves to visit.
that
So
is
yes, it
so,
is him.
that's so cool. Y'all be sure you share this with your friends and family and hit the notification bell because we have a lot more questions to ask Mr. Adrian. Bye
Awesome.
bye. Love
Bye
you.
bye. Love you.